Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. We have a lot to discuss. Yesterday marked the 12-year anniversary of Lucasfilm being bought by Disney. The famous photo of George Lucas signing over Lucasfilm to the Walt Disney Company and Bob Iger, and fans have been sharing their reflections. It's pretty interesting because every time this photo comes up, you get different responses. I wouldn't say there is one unanimous consensus over this, but it tends to be the general opinion of most that while there have been some good things, and all the first two seasons of Mando, Rogue One, Star Wars Rebels, The Clone Wars Season 7, Tales of the Jedi, there have been a ton of misses. Now here's the thing, in this conversation fans always compare Disney Star Wars to George Lucas's original 6 films. But no one is really honest about what Star Wars would have looked like in 2024 had George Lucas not sold Lucasfilm. As the creator of the franchise, obviously we like to believe it would have been much better, and I think, yeah, at least it would have had a more cohesive vision. But considering the way fans turned on Lucas after the prequel trilogy, would we really be praising him? And would the state of the brand really be better? We know for one thing he was working on a live-action show, which was codenamed Star Wars Underworld. That was the working title. Over a decade ago, George Lucas said, "We have 50 hours. We're trying to figure out a different way of making movies. We're looking at different technology that we can use, and our show fills the gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope." He announced the series back in 2005 at Star Wars Celebration 3. Over the next few years, a variety of writers were hired, 50 scripts were written, and that was going to be the big, non-movie project Lucasfilm would have made had Disney not bought them. And in 2010, one of the biggest hurdles was budget constraints. The premise was fascinating though. We were going to see Lando, Boba Fett, Quinlan Vos, as well as other characters from both canon and the expanded universe. This is really the only major project we know Lucas would have worked on, and of course, his sequel trilogy. But we don't know what Star Wars in 2024 would have looked like had he kept it. Would there be better content? Would there be as much content? I think some fans like to idealize what George Lucas' Star Wars would have been like in 2024, but it's all conjecture, it's all speculation. He's moved on. We don't have a time machine, we can't go back and see that alternate version of events. But like I say, Star Wars under Disney has been a mixed bag. We've had some fantastic things, some awful things. I wouldn't say I'm as negative as those who say Star Wars is dead. It's just absolutely kaput. But I'm also not of the opinion Disney has been entirely positive in every regard. I don't think Star Wars is as amazing as ever before. That's simply not true. Now here's the thing, some of those praising Disney Star Wars saying it's been absolutely perfect, all Star Wars is good Star Wars, all of that kind of thing. If you genuinely feel that way, and there is nothing ulterior behind that sentiment, then fine, that's absolutely valid. But it's those that are saying that it's the quantity of Star Wars that makes it so amazing that are missing the point. I know we often talk about the dark times, a time between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace where there wasn't very much. But on the other end, a lot of mediocre and average Star Wars isn't really better than a couple of pieces of amazing Star Wars. I've seen articles say it's the thousands of books that have released, the sheer quantity of content that makes it so good. And so before we move on to our next topic, the question of the day for you guys in the comments down below is, how do you feel about the acquisition? In your opinion, has it generally been a good thing, a bad thing? What are the projects you enjoy? And what do you think George Lucas' Star Wars would have been like in 2024? But moving on to some substantial Star Wars news, my dear friends, Jude has given a couple of very interesting interviews, and we have some new information for his character Jod Narwood in Skeleton Crew. Speaking with Variety.com, he revealed this: his character wears a helmet. Lucasfilm sure does love a Force user with a helmet these days, and Jude Law's character Jod Narwood is another one. I saw a suggestion I absolutely despise. Someone said imagine if he's wearing Chimea's helmet much further down the timeline. Please no. Please, please no. Now we know his character has short hair, but did you know originally the creators of the show John Watts and Chris Ford wanted Jude's character to have long hair? He said this: "They said to me, 'Oh, you're going to wear a wig. We want lovely, long, tousled hair.' And I was like, no, I think he should have really short hair because he wears a helmet." So that took some persuasion. Jude says he's been a Star Wars fan his entire life, and he wanted his introduction to the galaxy far, far away to feel right. And when he was asked, how does it feel being in possession of the Force? He cheekily replied, "Who says I've got the Force? Well, it's been more or less confirmed his character is a different and new type of Jedi, one who probably survived Order 66. He goes on to state the show respects the 70s vibe of George Lucas's original trilogy. But I've got to say, my dear friends, I've got a bone to pick with the creators of the show. Not Jude. Yes, Jude is the one who said what I'm about to dispute, but he's just an actor, just a messenger for what he was told. He basically said, there are rules in the Star Wars galaxy that need following, and rules he was explicitly told on set, skeleton crew has to follow. But it seems like the creatives who told him this aren't too familiar with the universe. Jude says, there are no buttons in Star Wars. There's Velcro, there's straps, there's ties, but no buttons. And second of all, there is no paper. Both of those claims are completely false. Buttons absolutely exist in Star Wars even as far back as A New Hope. Not to mention paper is found throughout various books, in legends, in canon in the High Republic, not as common as digital data pads, but it does exist. So the assertion, buttons and paper simply don't exist in Star Wars, is false. They might be rarities, but they do exist. And you might say it's just a nitpick, it doesn't matter very much, but I just thought it was worth clarifying. Skeleton Crew drops in just over a month, and sometime in the next week, we should be getting our second and final trailer for the show. Are you excited? I'll be breaking it down. In other Star Wars updates, my dear friends, we do have some sequel news. The first one concerns Daisy Ridley, who once again reinstated the Rey movie is happening. I've covered all the latest on this, but in her interview with the Drew Barrymore show, she went on to reflect on some advice Carrie Fisher gave her before her passing. She said, the one thing Carrie said to me that I'll always remember, when fans approached me they were so nice, but I was always so stunned that people were talking to me that I didn't know. And Carrie said, remember this, it takes a lot of courage to approach someone who you've liked in something. So that was something I remember her saying beautifully, appreciating fans who enjoyed Star Wars and enjoyed her performance, and realizing it takes courage to do that. Every time some posthumous information comes out about Carrie, it's always so special, so beautiful, so elegant. Forever our princess. And in other sequel news, did you know as well as Adam Driver, Eddie Redmayne auditioned for Kylo Ren? I cannot see it. I really can't. And apparently the original vision, had Eddie Redmayne got the job, involved the sequel scenes playing out like Pride and Prejudice. J.J. Abrams envisioned a romantic tension between Kylo and Rey that was akin to Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet. I think we really dodged a bullet. Eddie Redmayne is a fantastic actor, don't get me wrong, but he just wouldn't work as Ben Solo. But with that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.